everybody. Good evening. This is DH Thorne coming at you live, and I already have something in my eye. Isn't that always like a really good way to start off a live stream? Is having something in your freaking eye. Anyway, guys, hello and welcome to another Thursday night live stream with your best Thursday buddy, DH Thorne. I didn't share this video anywhere, so if you guys are on social media, if you wouldn't mind sharing this video out tonight. And my sound check girl, my wife, just told me that the sound is good, so that's really great. So let's begin with the usual. Eat up a few minutes of time, but we start. First things first, Alpha Draconian's here. She says, hello, everyone. What's up, Alpha? Alpha's cool people. She's one of the nice people that came to meet everybody last year on the East Coast meetup. Hopefully we'll be doing something like that again this year, although it's sort of fallen by the wayside what we're going to do. The original plan was to try to find some kind of a bungalow, cottage, rental, B&B in the woods type of deal, you know, or maybe somewhere in the area. I don't know if that's going to happen. My ambition, my goal is to start doing yearly retreats, then like, you know, bi-yearly, then like monthly, bi-monthly, you know. I want to start doing retreats and things. That sounds like a lot of fun. You know, 3-day weekend type of stuff. People come down, meditate, do ritual potentially, or lecture, or just hang out and meet other people with similar interests. You know, that could be fun. We Are Gods is here. What's up, We Are Gods? Kelly Meadows says hi and good evening. I'm at work. Series of strong thunderstorms. I do like a good thunderstorm. I go to sleep almost every night to either the sound of an ocean with a thunderstorm or a snowstorm or something. I like going to sleep to that stuff. I use like various 10-hour loops of things. Pretty good, some of them. Raquel Kelly says, good evening, super wonderful DH, beautiful, elegant Camilla, dear friends, and hello to all dear friends here. Thank you, Raquel Kelly. Let's see. Kelly's mentioned she sent the message. I think I didn't respond to it, if it's the one I think it was. I think you put a, Kelly says, I actually sent DH a message last night about, am I going crazy? I'm getting visions and full-blown conversations that aren't physically happening. I think I saw your comment. You know what? I can probably review that later and see if there's much I can help you with. I'm usually of the mind that, gee, this is difficult because, you know, throughout my life, I have had experiences that were, shall we say, beyond my apparent control. And then there was experiences that were well within my ability to control. And I always have like a degree of skepticism when someone's telling me about their experiences, you know, when they're having visions and things like that. Not because it doesn't happen and not because you were a liar or anything like that, but there is a very strong tendency for people, for one reason or another, to misidentify things that could be other things. I guess in my line of work, I'm the rare type that really, really leans into skepticism. This way, it's easier to be sure that there's something mysterious going on. Now, only you know whether or not what you're experiencing is something that is, you know, what you think it is, or is it something else? I mean, are you on medications? Are you, you know, you got to run through the whole checklist of not supernatural things before. But on the other hand, from a mystical, non-dual point of view, it is not a matter of what is possible, because it is possible. You know, one of the hardest things for me coming out of a long period of being a rational skeptic in opposition to these things for like 10, 15 years, is that I know all of the ways that these things can be misidentified or, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's actually presented itself for me as not quite a blockage, but because I'm not so quick to lean into it anymore, there is a little bit of a reduced tendency for it to be fireworks. You know, once upon a time, it would have been things that were really bizarre, out there, supernatural. Now it's like a knock on the wall. You know, cool stuff like that happens all the time. I obviously get a lot of messages and channelings and visions and things, but I'm very very quick to make sure that I am not conducting in or taking part in like wishful thinking. You know, when I get messages from spirits or source or whatever you want to call it, um, you know, I'm very hesitant to take seriously anything that is really in line with my egoic desires. So if I've got a concern in mind and I get a message from a spirit that says, "Oh, don't worry, it's going to be fine," I will say, "Okay, I will take that on, you know, whatchamacallit, advisement. I will take that on advisement. I will accept what you're saying and I will try to be calm." But it might help, Kelly, if you give us a little bit more details. If you don't mind, maybe I can help you, maybe not. But yeah, let us know, like, maybe a little bit more detail of what you're going through. And, you know, with the intention of getting to the bottom of it. And we'll see. It's very possible that you're channeling things or you've connected to something that you're not equipped to deal with, right? But it could also be schizophrenia, and that's something you may not be equipped to deal with as well. So what I'm saying is from my perspective, not knowing you, I have to be skeptical, only because in my position, a lot of people will come trying to get their things validated, validating their experiences and such. And I'm not here to do that for you. Like, that's, you've got to take care of that on your own. And, you know, so what I'm more interested in is getting to the bottom of your approach and your attitude towards it. If I can get those two things squared away, then it almost doesn't matter what it is, because then it'll be easier for you to deal with. So maybe give us a little bit more information about what you're going through, and we'll see what's going on. Again, try not to like convince me. I don't need to be convinced. I'm open-minded either way. I just lean towards a skeptical perspective for our own good, not as a judgment of you. Let me make this very, very clear. It's not a judgment of you. It's actually for everybody's well-being. Because if I just said, "Oh, you've got Osmodee, you know, bothering you," or something to everybody, I might be potentially feeding something that's not good for you. You know, even if it's, say, maybe it's like an imposter, maybe it's a problematic spirit. If my attitude is, "Oh, that's what it is, go do this," that may not help you, you know? And someone can say, like, "Well, why don't you do some divination for it?" Yeah. Not necessarily. I tend to go by feel. So lately, I don't know what it is. On Thursday evenings, I've just been kind of blah. So if I seem a little bit like not all like, "And this is magic," it's just the mood I'm in. Let's see. All right, let's go back through and say hi to everybody. Let's see. We got Kelly, Raquel Kelly, Alpha Draconian, Solora S. What's up, Solora S? Let's see. Joffrey. What's up, Joffrey? J Baldale. Hail, they say. Scrolling. Inerta. What's up, Inerta? What's up, DH and all with the King's Crown? What's up, brother? Good to see you. Kelly Meadows. Yep, lots of Kellys here tonight. What is it? What's going on with the Kellys? It's like a whole bunch of Irish people or something. Like, what the hell? Lots of Kellys here. Let's see. Sinister Jinx. What's up, Jinx? It has been a long time. I remember it. What's up? Tommy Carson. What's up, Tommy? Jockster. What's up, Jockster? And there we go. And Jasonius Arcanum. What's up, brother? All right. So that seems to be everybody. You know, we haven't seen in a while. We haven't seen Wyatt. Has anybody heard from Wyatt in a while? Hopefully he's all right. I know he was going through some crap last I heard from him. Some family stuff. But difficult. Yeah. Let me see real quick if I can do this without like causing sound to give me a copyright strike. Let's see. Urgent. Okay, here we go. Here's Kelly's message. Urgent, DH. I'll start with how much I relate and love the way you speak. Oh, thank you. As a Luciferian, I am almost hesitant to speak about my experiences. Bottom line, I feel like a fruitcake. You're probably not a fruitcake, Kelly, especially if you're feeling that way. That's you. It's good to be. It means you're being skeptical, which is what I would prefer. So stay on the skeptical spectrum, even if you have crazy experiences. Like that doesn't mean that they're not real. It just makes them more real when you're skeptical. Does that make sense? If you're skeptical about your experiences and you're still having them and you still can't explain them, ding, 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 that's what you want. You don't want to believe in everything. So obviously, it is exhausting. I see dead people a lot. Anyway, I respect all your work and rock on. I don't know. That is not something I've ever experienced. I've never seen, like, what's that movie? What was that movie with Bruce Willis? I can't think of any of it. But the one where the little kid goes, "I see dead people." Sixth Sense. I've never seen the whole "I see dead people" thing. It's never happened to me. Of all the things that I've experienced, that's one that's never. That's not to say I haven't had ghosts like paranormal activity in my house. Absolutely. In fact, we had a weird happening. What was it, 2 weeks ago, where our bedroom door slammed shut because an object that was perfectly stable for months and months and months and months and months, a big box, just decided to fall over and knock the door closed, and we had a hard time getting into the door. We have stuff like that happen around here from time to time. So we definitely have some kind of a, I don't know whether you'd call it what you'd call it, but we do have a presence in the house, and it is definitely lively, for sure. So I mean, it really depends, Kelly, on what your practices are like and what you're doing. Um, what your practices normally are, if you have any, or are you just experiencing stuff that's unusual. Um, so yeah. Queen Homunculus says, all I know is I just got back from sitting through 2 hours of how the world's gonna end. Yeah. Yep. A lot of that going around lately. A lot of that going around lately. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, earth flipping 90 degrees on its axis. Yeah, you know. So Kelly says, I guess I left another piece out. I was drunkly sober, sleepy. I work with. So in that in between state, yeah, lots of weird stuff can happen there. That's absolutely, using a little bit of chemonosis myself, rather somewhat regularly, before bed or whatever. There's like a period of like an hour or so that, I might be having a lot of visions and going a lot of places. We'll just put it that way. Um, so yes, that in between, that twilight where you're awake but asleep. That's a powerful, powerful state. You can see and experience a lot of crazy stuff. The question is, are you lucid while it's happening? If you're lucid, if it's not just something beyond your control, if you're not just dreaming, then definitely try to communicate, ask it questions, and take notes. Get everything written down. Get everything, journal everything. I routinely, I don't do it in the moment because you kind of can't, but journal everything while it's happening. Get a really good idea, write it all down, because sometimes, and I mean write everything. Like don't try to fix it. Write everything you get. Everything you've gotten, write it down. Whether it makes sense or not, don't try to correct it, don't try to fix it, don't try to make it make sense. If it says like flapjacks and thumberbums, if that's what you heard, write it down. Exactly how you heard it. Get it exactly how it happened, as best a recording as you can. Then go back and analyze it with your lucid waking brain and try to figure out anything you maybe missed. Beyond that, there's a whole bunch of things you can do, and there is no simple answer. You can go with divination with tarot. You can use pendulums. You can use, there's even a method where you can see if it's a negative spirit using an egg and all kind of stuff. I don't really find that stuff very useful for me because generally as a medium, it's just like that for me. I don't have to go through a lot of physical steps. I'm either getting it or I'm not, you know. And I don't like trusting my intuition to an inanimate object, if that makes sense. I would rather go through my own intuition. So I actually do use pendulums these days more than I use tarot or any of that other stuff. I actually do use pendulums more. But I have a way of using them where I can tell when, you know, how much of it is I have a method, we'll say. I only use it for things that are not going to be something I'm going to be tempted to influence it with my wishful thinking. That's the biggest problem with a pendulum is wishful thinking tends to take over, or fear. And we tend to say things, we tend to use a pendulum in a way that can skew our results. You know, it's like peeking in your tarot deck while you're shuffling, you know. So when you're using a pendulum, the biggest thing is to just avoid anything that will give you false answers based on your personal preferences. So like, for example, your boyfriend breaks up with you, your girlfriend breaks up with you, and you want to ask the spirits, are they going to come back? If you're really weak, yeah, you're going to definitely have a tendency to give it the wrong answer. One thing that I like to do I have my pendulum here? Yeah, I do. When I use a pendulum, I don't use it the way a lot of other people do. Some people like to keep it short. Some people like to keep it long. So I'll get it into my fingers comfortably. So I got a good hold on it. And I'll actually hold it so that my hand is above my line of sight. I don't want to see my hand. I don't want to hear. I want it so that I am looking straight through the crystal. If I have to, I'll shorten up on it a little bit, but I don't want it too short. I actually like it a little bit long. All right. So I have a bit of a bum shoulder lately, so if it looks like I'm not holding it right, that's why my shoulders are. Let me do it with my left. Some people actually prefer to use their left, and there's a good reason for that. Your left tends to be your subtle, you know, subconscious side. So there's nothing wrong with using your left. In fact, sometimes I prefer it, but I can go either way. It doesn't matter. So I'll hold it pretty much. So I use more of like a Buddhist or yogic meditative method. So when I trance out, I tend to be like half lidded and I look through my nose, if you will. So I keep it roughly nose level. I soften my gaze so that I get really, everything's blurred out and I enter into a really trance type of state. And I will begin by giving it, you know, show me yes, show me no, show me I don't know, or maybe, or whatever I want to do. And then while I'm doing that, since it's out of my sight, you know, I don't see the hand. It's all about the crystal. It's all about the pendulum, whatever your pendulum is. And then I go from there. Now, if you want to, you can go all crazy with your little, you know, your little map, your little, my language isn't very good today, guys. I apologize. I'm kind of tired. Basically the equivalent of like your little doily, you know, with like your A, B, C, D, E, F, G and all that kind of stuff. If you want to do it that way, you can. I get more mileage out of yes, no, and unanswerable, or yes, no, maybe, or whatever. I prefer yes and no because it's just way more clear. And to be brutally honest, I don't need a pendulum to communicate with spirits at all. The pendulum is to help me with intuition when I really want, we'll say maybe I'm having a little trouble reaching what I'm going for. Maybe I don't know, you know, I really don't know. I don't have any intuitive hit that's coming through in my conscious awareness. I'll do the pendulum or I'll do tarot for that. But most of the time, I know when I'm getting a psychic hit. I just know. It's like bang, that's real. And then I go from there. And my wife was just telling me just as I was scrolling up to see it, Azarath gave us a beautiful, this just delightful 50 Canadian, I guess. And it says, "What's up, peeps? Thank you so much. That's very generous. I appreciate it, especially these days. Really, I do. I deeply appreciate that. That's a lot. Thank you very much, Azarath. If you have a question or if you have a comment or something you want me to read, just drop it. Make sure you tag me and I will get to you. Let's see. Queen Homuncula says, a lot of times it actually makes sense. It just doesn't make sense initially when you're writing. Exactly. So write it exactly as you hear it. Don't try to fuck with it until after. After you can go nuts. You can go nuts. Justoni Marcanum says, journaling helps you understand what is going on with the paranormal. I investigate with all tools, EMF meters, spirit box. I've tried all of that and I've had mixed results, and I'll tell you why. I end up getting more distracted by the equipment. I'm more of a medium. So, and my mediumship, it depends on what it is. I don't always get hits when other people do. And my style is more, I'm more likely to contact higher spirits. I'm not really good at contacting ghosts and stuff like that. Other people might be. I have EMF stuff. I have some of these things, and I've never had jaw-dropping results with them. I get better results with using incense smoke and candle flames and pendulums, and show us a sign, hear a bang on the wall or a tree branch snaps in the woods or something. That's way more my speed. Like old-fashioned seance shit, like that's way more my speed, ironically enough, probably because it has a little bit to do with what you are resonant with, what your psyche is resonant with. Christian's saying, whatever you're wearing, I want one. Do you mean the garb, or do you mean the metal swirly? The metal swirly is on one level, I am a big fan of the symbol in general, right? It's maybe equal to me with the triangle. I've always loved like the spiral, especially when it's, I forget the exact name for it, but there's a name for it in Eastern mystical traditions. It's like a swirl, and then like it goes back and forth and then just ends up going to nothingness. And it basically signifies the journey someone goes through on spirituality to enlightenment, you know? So I love that symbol, and I love this, to me, this is just another symbol for just infinite unfolding, the infinite unfolding of the manifestation of reality, and it's connected to it. It's a natural symbol. It's a very basic symbol in mysticism and all of that. So I do enjoy it. It's one of my favorite. Yeah, I think my snake's shedding. There's a lot of commotion going on in the tank there. Oh man. Oh, what should we talk about tonight, guys? What shall we talk about? Let's get some Thorne topics going. I'm not sure what to talk about. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world, obviously. Um, I know not everyone wants to talk about current events, but some people want to. We are going through the eye of the needle now. Um, this is an interesting time. This is very interesting time. Anything but the 12,000, 12, yeah. Anything but the 12,000 year cycle. Jose Muniz says, let's talk about history as a lie. Absolutely. Almost everything in history is to some degree or another a lie. That much is certain. The thing is, you can lie by telling the truth. So what is the lie has more to do with the interpretations of things. How people interpret history or science or any of those things. You can be completely truthful and either misinterpret, misrepresent, or come to wrong conclusions very easily. You know, I don't know the truth of history. I've had channelings of that stuff. I've actually thought about writing from memory what I can get. The only problem is with doing that is it's UPG and I'm not in connection with those people that I used to work with when I was younger who helped me record it all. And I don't like, you know, when I released Shadownomicon, one of my biggest worries was like, this is all UPG as far as anyone's concerned. And so I didn't like that. I don't like doing UPG like that. And that's unverified personal gnosis. Now, some people get their hackles up when you criticize UPG, because obviously everything's UPG until it's validated. So, but what I don't like to do is release a book or a bunch of stuff without at least saying that it's UPG, because one of the big problems in the spiritual community is a lot of people will take their UPG and treat it like dogma, and then they get into trouble. I would rather not tell you my UPG unless there is some kind of reason. Believe me, I tell you guys maybe 10% of the things I've channeled, found out, experienced. I don't have the time, number one. But number two, I want you guys to have your own experiences. I don't want people to be like, oh, Thorne experienced this, and so that's real, or Thorne didn't experience this, so it's not. I don't ever want, I guess I'm aware of the fact that I have a small following, but I have a following, and I don't like the idea of somehow misleading people. Like, I've had wild experiences, but not everybody does. And one of the things that happens is people start to get it in their head that you're supposed to have a wild experience for it to be real. They want physical evidence. They want, you know, they want wild experiences, but that's not the point. Those things are important, but they're not the point. You need, as someone who's been around this block a few times, the experiences come and go, but the enlightenment is what you're really, really looking for. And by enlightenment, I don't just mean you feel good. Enlightenment doesn't mean you just feel. Enlightenment means true knowledge. You don't get enlightenment by ignorance, okay? True enlightenment is true knowledge, true gnosis. When I say knowledge, I don't mean facts. I don't mean facts like 2 + 2 = 4 facts. I mean true knowledge, mystical realization of bigger picture stuff that cannot be worded without using analogies and shit like that. That is the real oomph of everything. That doesn't mean that you don't have wild experiences that can be important in your life for other reasons, you know. We all have a story, a ghost story, an experience. But those are fleeting. Show me the ones where you learned about divinity. Show me the ones where you were shown the multiverse. Talk to me about that stuff. The real big picture stuff, because that is where you're headed. See, what you don't realize is this is just one of many lives, one of many possible experiences that you're going to have as the divine itself. And it's important, but the little experiences you're having in here, they're just like entertainment, you know? It's called Leela. It's the play of Brahman. Okay, so part of the play of Brahman, though, is discovery of Brahman. Part of the play is, and it's not the only goal. One of the big things that's a mistake, I believe, in many mystical traditions is they make it out to be the primary goal of life is to realize your Brahman or something. That is a yes and no thing. Brahman incarnates as us for the joy, the bliss, the fulfillment, the adventure, the ups and downs of total immersion in itself. If the goal was to wake up, that's silly, simply because it's that simple for Brahman. It does it every night when you sleep. Okay, you enter into very deep states and you don't remember them. So the goal isn't just to, it is a goal. You can have it as a goal. That's an adventure you can have. But it's not necessarily the only goal. But the goal does appear to be discovery. This is why no matter where you look in nature, there's always more to learn. No matter how finely you split the universe apart, there's always something smaller. And no matter how big you look, there's always something bigger. No matter which direction you go, there's always more direction to go in. This is because Brahman is boundless. The divine is boundless and infinite, and everything is in it. So that's the goal. When we are, one could say, you know, in the mystical traditions, the goal is to know Brahman as the self. Okay, fine, but that goal is part of the bigger goal of just experience, of Brahman experiencing itself. That's why it's here. Brahman didn't incarnate. Brahman didn't forget just so it could remember that it was Brahman. That's just one piece of it. Remembering your Brahman helps you to explore deeper. But until you're ready to do that, there's no rush. There's no rush. People make a great fetish out of enlightenment. Like it's this big thing you're supposed to do. I do encourage it. It is something else, but it is not. If you're wasting your life seeking enlightenment, you're never going to find it. You're better off not looking for it and having it surprise you, like it happens to me. When I first began to wake up, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I wasn't looking for anything. I was a hardcore atheist listening to Alan Watts because meditation helped calm my mind, and I enjoyed listening to his lectures. Very deep wisdom with Alan Watts, and then just something clicked. And all of a sudden, my atheism, my hardcore skepticism that I had developed for 15 years was flushed instantly. I couldn't hold it anymore. I was like, wait a minute. I guess I've been lying to myself this whole time. Holy shit. I'm not just a bunch of particles bumping together. I'm not just some shit vibrating. I'm consciousness experiencing itself. I'm God experiencing itself. Just like Carl Sagan said, we are made of star stuff. The cosmos is within us. We are a way for the universe to know itself. It's basically what non-duality is saying. It just doesn't treat the universe as a physical reality. It treats the universe as an illusory manifestation of reality. So everything you think is real, energy flying around, that's just an appearance of it. That doesn't mean that's what it is. But you can use that appearance as a stepping stone. You can work with the appearance as a stepping stone until it clicks. And then at that point, it's like a lucid dream. You don't have to try anymore. You just go, oh, I'm doing all this. This is all me. Okay. I'm just going to watch then. Or I'm going to tweak the dream a little bit. I'll use some visualization, law of attraction, magic spells, whatever the method is. I'm going to do a little tweak to it. Sometimes all you need is one or two good ones to prove it, and you're happy for like the rest of your life because you're like, oh shit, it's real. Okay, I'm God. I'm just going to watch now. God's a great voyeur, right? Why do you think every religion says God is everywhere watching? Because it's consciousness itself. The consciousness you think is being produced by your brain is actually producing your brain. Everything's backwards. If you're a materialist, everything's backwards from the material. All right. Lots of people talking about Sound of Freedom. I am so glad to hear everybody's going to see that. It's a really important movie. Let's see, who was going to see it? Was it Christian? Yeah, Christian saw it, and some other people were saying they're going to go see it this coming week or something. All right, so that one issue alone is tectonic in this world. Everything is changing right now. I see people talking about pole shifting. Be careful when you're getting your visions that you take them too literally. There's this great fun that I used to have. So Queenie Monk was talking about poles shifting 90 degrees and all that. I'm not saying it won't happen. What I'm saying is when I was young, I prophesized this time. And when I prophesied it, it was symbolic. I didn't know that. I treated it as literal. So I would see things like asteroids coming. I would see things like pits to hell opening up and shadows coming out and the whole world being ravaged by this. The truth came out. Everything's real. Magic is real. And everything that I had prophesied, if I looked at it literally, none of it came true. But if I take all of that symbolically and rip it apart like a dream, like imagine I'm doing dream analysis. I took all those symbols, when I ripped them apart, at least the ones I remember, when I take those prophecies that I remember and break them down symbolically and what they mean to me, I realize that pretty much beat for beat, everything I prophesied has come true or is in the process, and there's a few things yet to come. I remember when I was young, one of the big ones was a lot of people were going to go missing. There's going to be missing children. There was going to be people disappearing, being used for things like slavery and stuff by demons, right? Being swallowed up into the abyss and being made into slaves. Holy shit, that's basically the human trafficking thing. The gates were going to open, the shadows were going to come out, and the world was going to be engulfed by the shadows and you know, conquered by the shadows. But then people would finally, now that they know they're there, they would rise up and eventually they would push them back and win. Well, holy shit, if that isn't exactly what's happening. It's just, it's not like demonic shadows manifesting physically. It's spirit world entities and hidden agenda people that are part of all that. All of that's happening now. That's all coming out. I do refrain from the superstitious stuff, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I just don't like when people lean too far into that, simply because it tends to validate certain egoic delusions. I prefer to see them as symbolic because everything's symbolic. The material world is symbolic of the spirit world. The spirit world is symbolic of source. This is how it's been explained in every mystical tradition ever. Going back from Hermeticism as far back as we can remember, Kabbalah, Platonism, Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, every single Indian traditions, all of them say basically the same thing. There is an incomprehensible source, which we are, that's God, that's consciousness, which manifests, projects, or casts shadow-like things first as ideal experiences. In other words, pure thought forms without shape, without substance. In other words, an idea before you visualize it. A lot of people get hung up on their visualization or the sound of something in their mind. That's actually not it. That's Maya. Anything that you have a visceral awareness of, anything that's qualia, anything that's a vritti, as they call it, a vritti. I always pronounce it. I need to get like my Hindu up. Vritti. I can't pronounce it. Anyway, all of that stuff is a product of Maya. The truth is invisible. It's insubstantial. It's closer to what we would think of as pure information. Pure information doesn't actually have it. It's so abstract that there's no physicality to pure information. Pure information manifests as thought forms, as ideas, as images, as objects. And it's all that projection from that source. Call it Brahman, call it monad, whatever the fuck you want to call it God. Any word for the infinite you want to use is wrong. Use them all. So the projection, that's the essence of the divine being projected. The divine is all essence, period. All essence. Look up, there's a really good video. There's a short version, like 10, 15 minutes long, called The 10-Dimensional Universe, or the universe explained in 11 dimensions. Doesn't really matter, because 10 or 11, it's the same, because you either don't count the first one, which is 0, so you say there's 10 dimensions, 1 through 10, or there's 11 if you count the 0 dimension. So look up 11 dimensions explained. That 11th dimension, in that, it comes to us from string theory, by the way, but that's not its real origin. String theory uses the 11-dimensional multiverse concept, but it's not, or it doesn't originate from there. It sincerely does not. It absolutely does not. It's got fucking 1 through 10, guys. We're talking Pythagorean. We're talking about numbers 1 through 10. Ancient shit has been updated for modern physics and shit, because they don't have a fucking clue what they're dealing with. So they dip into that shit and then they act like they invented it as a new idea. Trust me, I see it all the time. Anyway, you have in the 10-dimensional or 11-dimensional concept, that 11th or 10th dimension is monad. It is Brahman. Look it up. It's fantastic. It's an old thing. I've known about this for like going on 15, 20 years now. But I don't talk about it much because I don't like to dip into that too much. But it's a really cool idea. Look it up. It'll blow your mind. But the 11th dimension or the 10th dimension, that would be Brahman, that would be monad. And so those things, the reality is the 11th dimension or the 10th dimension. I'm just going to say 11th dimension. Just keep it simple. Reality is the 11th dimension, and everything below that is a projection. In other words, dimensionality itself is an illusion. Physicality is an illusion. Energy is an illusion. All of it is an illusion. That doesn't mean, though, that there isn't a reality from which that illusion manifests. So think of it like this. You have your physical level of appreciation, shall we say. Your physical level of understanding. This is a hand, this is air moving around, this is my head, this is a table, that's my computer setup. Physicality. All physicality is a dream that is so consistent, vivid, and intense that you can't help but take it for hard reality. Then you have the ideal level. That's like the dream world. Well, dreams are pretty intense. They're pretty vivid, but they're not usually consistent. In other words, every night you can have a completely different dream, but every day you have the same dream of a daytime, right? So that dream level, that is, I don't like doing hierarchies like this, but that's one level up from the physical. That's you're manifesting the ideal realm in a way that is relevant to you as an incarnate being. Because the ideal realm by itself, it's not even a realm. It's just a classification of experience, guys. See, this is what kind of gets my hackles up, is that when people take these subjects literally, that is to say there's a physical reality, an ideal reality, and then a source, and then it creates this stratification of realities. That's dualism. No, bad puppy, bad mystic, bad magician. No, collapse that shit back to itself. Collapse it back in on itself, and now you're talking reality. So take that whole thing, squeeze it into an infinite, boundless singularity, and you got it. And then you can manifest it any way you want. You can manifest it as a dream world, as the astral, as the physical world. Doesn't matter. It can manifest any way that it wants to manifest. I should say any way that it wills. So there's nothing wrong with the physical experience, so long as you're aware that it's like a really deep dream. It's a really vivid dream. It's a uniquely vivid dream, more uniquely vivid than any other dream you might have, usually. That's what makes it special. You've incarnated in a dream. You have placed your entire infinite being into this dream as this person, and as that person, and as that person. But right now, because you've created a sense of time for yourself, you're only here right now. But you're also only there right now because time is an illusion, see? But in your frame right now, there's a horrible thought. It's very solipsistic. It's not solipsism, but it can feel very, and it's terrifying. Brahman is simultaneously incarnate as everybody, but right now it's you. You are alone in this whole universe in one manner of speaking. You're not alone, you're with yourself. Everything is you. But right now, this moment, you have singled yourself out into this little moment as this person. But you're also your best friend, you're your lover, you're your enemy. All of that is in consciousness. All of that is consciousness. All of that is consciousness manifesting as those things. Brahman manifesting as those things. But right now, you're exclusively looking from here. That doesn't mean when you look in your lover's eyes, you're not there too. You are. See, that's where it gets trippy, because time is an illusion. What you think of as time, it's another projection. Time is just a measure of change. Change is a constant, but the infinite doesn't change. How can that be? There's your paradox. Brahman is ultimate paradox. Brahman is unchanging, so therefore change is eternal. Get it? But change itself, Brahman doesn't actually change. It appears to change through Maya. Maya is the imaginative appearance of change. It's the imaginative, it's like you're daydreaming. You're not actually changing, just what you see changes. And it never stops changing. That Maya never stops changing, because if it does, it doesn't happen anymore. You don't see it. Think about it. Imagine everything freezes. You couldn't see. You wouldn't be able to see if everything froze, because there wouldn't be anything coming and going anymore. There wouldn't be any more, there'd be nothing more to experience. It would all just be, and it would just go away. Anything that is temporary is unreal. Did you know that? Anything that's temporary is unreal in itself. Reality fundamentally is that which that isn't temporary. What is always there, no matter what? Consciousness. Consciousness is always there. But yeah, Sound of Freedom, back on that topic. Sound of Freedom is very important. The media and the whole media doesn't want you to see it, which is really wild, because they're attacking it for being QAnon, and there's not a whiff of QAnon in it. There's not a whiff of any of that. It's literally a movie about cartels and shit trafficking children. And it makes the US government look like a good guy. Meanwhile, the US government, the three-letter agencies, are well known for supporting, enabling, expanding all of that shit. The drug trade, human trafficking, all is part of CIA operatives, all is part of FBI operations, all of it. They use the excuse of we are enabling it so we can stop it. You know, we do this so that we can install dictators into countries that are more, you know, positive towards the United States. They use all of this bullshit. And that's just one of the ways they do it. Let's see. Raquel Kelly says, the Kabbalists claim 28 is the perfect number. What do you think about that? You know, there's things that I'm not interested in as much. At least not right now. That can change. It's all subject to change, guys. What I'm into is subject to change at any moment. But at this moment, I've never been deep into numerology, astrology, all that. It's useful. It's interesting. The symbolism's powerful. It's an earlier form of pantheism, generally speaking. A lot of that stuff, like Hermeticism, is like an earlier form of like pantheistic monism, pantheistic non-duality. Very powerful stuff. And it's important, but you have to remember there is no ideal symbolism. There's only symbolism that's ideal for you. If you're the type of person that really wants to know what all the secret societies say about this and that symbol, and that's a valid approach, but it's not necessary. Because all of it's made up. All of it. Somebody made it up. That doesn't mean it's not true or valuable or important, but somebody made it up. It's temporary. It's a thought form that helps you relate to the source, the truth itself. So in other words, if they say 28 is the perfect number, they've got a reason for that that's rooted in culture, maybe in the lunar cycle, maybe in something like that. Great. There's probably something to that. But what if we were all born and raised on a planet that didn't have a moon, or the moon didn't take 28 days to go around the Earth? Would 28 be as popular? What if we didn't use base 10? What if we decided to use a different base number? What if we decided to use binary as our mathematical code instead of base 10? What if we went with base 3, base 5? You see what I'm saying? Everything changes a lot depending upon what system of notation you use or what your references are. So I'd have to see why they think 28 is the perfect number. But we do have to remember that numbers are all about correspondence and relationship. There are certain universal things about number. And when I say number, I don't mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean the essence of number. The essence of number transcends the numerology of number. This is what is difficult. See, people think that people like the Pythagoreans were sitting there doodling around with numerals like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's true. But that's not where they got that from. They didn't sit there and just compare notations. They were meditating on the meanings of the numbers, the essence of the numbers. What is the essence of oneness? What is the essence of two-ness? Not oneness. This looks like oneness, yes, but that's not the essence of oneness. This is a kind of notation for oneness. This represents oneness. What does oneness actually mean by itself? Interestingly enough, by itself, it doesn't mean anything. No number means anything by itself. It can't be a value unless there's another value to compare against. It's a dualistic thing. Number, the essence of number, is inherently dualistic. Doesn't mean it's not useful, valuable, important. Doesn't mean it doesn't point to things divine. It just means it's a dualistic concept. It's about relationships. To have relationships, you have to have two of something. If you just have one by itself, one means nothing. If there's only one thing, that one thing is everything. One and infinity is the same number then, and there is nothing in between. It's the same. It's meaningless. So in other words, you have to take that one and chop it in half and make two, or find another one, and now you got two. That's a duality now. With that duality comes 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. You'll find it interesting to note that to most mystical traditions, the number one is not the whole. You get wholeness at 3, physicality at 4, and all of this shit, and so on. And there's different interpretations, but we're talking about the essence. What's the essence of the numbers? What is the essence that manifests as numbers? Oh, now we're getting somewhere. What is the essence that manifests as all number? What is the essence that manifests as all thingness? Remember what I said before, if there is one and only one, it's equal to infinity? It's a meaningless concept. It's incomprehensible. The essence of reality is incomprehensible. It might as well be infinity or 0 or 1. It might as well be anything but 2. Anything but 2. Oh, look, non-duality again. Look how we got here. No matter how you slice it, you get to non-duality somewhere. So the absolute Brahman, the divine, is infinity, it's oneness, it's all of that. And it's that being divided and chopped apart by the mind into things that can be related to one another. And the essence of that divine is infinite, meaning you can chop it an infinite number of ways. You can chop that infinity up and make it look like anything with the imaginative power of Maya. Anything. There is a literal multiverse within that Brahman. Now, when I say there's a literal multiverse, I don't mean a physical space-time multiverse. I mean the essence of a multiverse is within Brahman, and it manifests. Meaning the entire multiverse manifests in Brahman at all times, because there is no time. So why are you here? Why are you watching this? You want to. You, as Brahman, are here because you want to. Source is both duality and non-duality at the same time, is how I see it. You're not far off at all. The ultimate non-dual realization is that you can't say that it's one or the other either. It's incomprehensible. Why do you think they say non-dual instead of one? Think about this. There's a reason why the term is Advaita or non-dual. It is not Advaita or non-dual because it is one. They would have just said monism. They would have called it oneism. Okay? But they didn't. Why did it think? Everybody stop, put your shit down for a minute. Why do you think just think for a minute. Why did they call it not two? Why did they call it non-dual? Why didn't they just call it oneness or monism? To call it oneness is an affirmative asserting statement. You're describing it as something conceptual that you can actually get away with in your brain. If you say it's one, you've just asserted something that's rational that you can consider. You cannot describe the absolute by any affirmative statement at all. If I say reality is non-dual, what I'm saying is reality is not two. Am I making an affirmative statement about that? It sounds like it, but I'm actually negating what I'm saying. I'm literally saying a paradoxical thing. I might as well just call it paradox. Nothing's in flux, Jasonium, just your brain. No, just your mind. There's a beautiful parable in Zen about the sixth patriarch of Chan Buddhism, which is Zen. There was two monks, or two people, the story's different depending on who tells it. There were two people arguing about a flag. The first was saying, the flag is moving. Remember, this is back in the ancient times before they had any idea of what air was or anything, okay? So just bear with me. To us, it seems stupid, but put your brain back into, like, I get, what was it, 8th century China or whatever it was? I forget. So there's two guys, they're watching a flag flapping, and one is arguing the flag is moving, the other's arguing, no, it's the wind that's moving. So they're going back and forth, and they're getting hot and they're getting heavy. Well, it's obviously the flag because that's what's moving, and you can't see that the air. There is no such thing as air. That's just a force or something. Okay. So they're arguing back and forth. Is it the flag that's moving? Is it the wind that's moving? The sixth patriarch of Zen comes along, laughs, and says, you're both wrong. It's not the flag or the wind. It's mind that's moving. It is mind that's moving. Not the flag, not the wind. Mind is moving. The mind is what's shaping that. The mind is what's saying it's moving in the first place. Mind is moving, not the flag, not the wind. If you take your experiences at face value, you're being deceived by Maya. Maya is the imaginative power of illusion of Brahman. It is not reality. Everyone here who said it's both, it's this, it's that, no. That's just how it looks. It is mind that is moving. What does that mean, mind is moving? What does that mean? That's a tougher one, isn't it? Depending upon who you ask for an interpretation of that story, one person would say, oh, that was the sixth patriarch chastising the two people, saying they were overthinking it and to just accept it how it is. No. No. That's one interpretation. It's fair. If you're overthinking it, you're not experiencing the reality of it. That's true. But that isn't the only interpretation of it. A higher interpretation is realizing that it's the mind creating the illusion of the whole thing in the first place. The mind parsing, chopping up the infinite, the void, and manifesting it. Like taking an infinite number line and chopping off selective numbers and feeding it to a computer to put out whatever program you want. There are no human minds, Jasonium. That's an illusion too. But it's a useful one. See, this is the thing. Like, it's difficult when we're talking about this because down here in incarnate level land, all we know is what we experience. And the problem is we misinterpret it as literal or as real the way it looks. And because we all live in that indoctrinated perspective from the time we're born till now, it's really hard to take and eject from that and see reality as it really is. We're all in Plato's cave. We're all watching puppets on the wall, including you, Jasonius, including me, including everybody here. We're all watching shadow puppets on the wall. Some of us have left the cave. I left the cave. I know that the shadow puppets on the wall are not reality. I know what reality is now. It's not that. It just looks that way. So how do I communicate to the people that are still chained up? How do I communicate to them that it's not real when that's all they know? It's very difficult. You have to get them to leave the cave. When you get people to leave the cave, what does that mean? It means they turn inward, believe it or not outward. You have to recognize you are consciousness. You're not this ego, you're not this person, you're not even this mind. Those are all manifestations of consciousness. In and of consciousness. And when you believe you're this person, that's why you're trapped. If you were, The Matrix is such a perfect movie because it literally metaphors the whole thing so perfectly. If you were born into a virtual reality world and never told that that's what it was, you'd go through your whole life thinking that virtual reality world was real. You would go through your whole life thinking that simulation was reality, never aware of the fact that you're wearing a headset or you're in a pod like in the Matrix, right? Well, the exact same thing's going on here, except it's not a computer, it's not a machine, it is consciousness dreaming that it is not consciousness. It is God dreaming that it is not God. And this is really hard to shake people out of it because it's a lot of fun here. And they think that when they get shaken awake, that it goes away. It doesn't. The whole thing keeps going. It's like a lucid dream. You don't stop dreaming. You just realize it's a dream. And that one realization changes everything. Everything becomes possible. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you get the ability, as an ego, certainly not, to do it. So in Jasonius says, we're all marionettes on a level. The ego, the identity, is a marionette. It is like a marionette. It's like a shadow puppet. So what's casting the shadow? And someone's going to say, well, the spirit world's casting shadow. Okay. Fair. That's fine as models go, but are you now taking those literally too? Hold on, stop. Because those are another kind of shadow puppet. They're just further up the chain. That's all. They're just closer to the source, but they're still a shadow puppet. What is the ultimate thing? The ultimate thing is not the spirit world. It's not the material world. The ultimate thing is consciousness, in which all of that happens. Consciousness is it. No, Jasonia, at least not in the non-dual tradition. So Jasonia says, so the conclusion I'm drawing is that our consciousness is part of the shared consciousness, as part of the divine, that form from which we are. No, it looks that way from this. When you're down here and you look up, it looks like a bunch of split off consciousnesses. No. There is no our consciousness. There is no my consciousness. Get that word. Consciousness has no ours, no mine, no yours. There is just consciousness. Consciousness, period. End of story. And when I say consciousness, I don't mean what we understand. I mean the enigma of consciousness. You don't understand what consciousness is. Nobody does. You know what it is when I say it, but you don't know what it is when I say it. That sounds contradictory, but it's not. When I say consciousness, everybody knows what I'm talking about. If I asked you what it was, nobody could tell you what it is. It's the faculty of awareness. What's awareness? Looking up the textbook definition of consciousness in the Western world, it's the outward manifestations of consciousness. Somebody can respond when you're talking to them. That's bullshit. That's not consciousness. Consciousness is that which witnesses all things. What does it mean to witness? You can't explain consciousness. There's no word that perfectly describes. It's like the color blue. Consciousness is exactly like the color blue or the color red. There's no word or no description that will make you see the color blue or color red. All I can do is reference things that it's a shared experience of blue or red. And then I'll be like, okay, it's blue like the sky. Oh, then you can be like, yeah, I remember the color blue. Okay. But there's no, blue is exactly this wavelength. That won't make you see it. If I say blue, what is it? 430 something, 404. I forgot to look it up. Someone look it up. I'll look it up. Fuck it. Let's have fun. Wavelength of blue. Boop. Okay. I was close. 450 to 4. So, everybody, if I say 450 nanometers, do you suddenly see blue in your mind's eye? No. See, what Jasonium talks about is important stuff, but that's a layer of projection just above the material. So like what Jasonium talks about, a lot of that stuff I'm familiar with. Not every little bit. There's a lot of things Jasonium talks about that I'm not as familiar with, and I'm sure vice versa it's the same. I think if you put me and Jasonium together, you'd have a pretty interesting set of ideas. Like if on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 6 on the stuff he's like an 8 or 9 at, you know? So, but what he describes is a layer above that material perception. That's all valid stuff, but you can't stop there. That's still the foothills. That's still the beginning. You're trying to get to the top of, you know, the Himalayas, right? You're trying to get to the top of Mount Everest. You're still in the foothills if you're looking at the material world or even the astral. That's still the foothills. It's a lot of fun. I don't like leaving the foothills. It's a lot of fucking fun. But there's so much more. There's so much deeper you can go. Consciousness is like the invisible man. Actually, yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's it might as well be. What do you, so think of it this way. Let's use that as an analogy, right? Consciousness is like the invisible man. How do you see the invisible man? Well, you got to cover him with something, right? Why do you think Maya is described as a veil? Because Maya is just an illusory veil overshadowing everything. Brahman engages in, depending upon how you look at it, I like the story where Brahman engages in 2 forms of play. It's really one form of play, but it has 2 expressions. So Leela has 2 expressions. You have avidya, which is ignorance. That's the forgetting and the veiling of reality, so you don't see it all. You just see a little teeny piece at a time. Meaning you only see your consciousness feels separate from other consciousnesses. It's not. You're just ignoring everything else that you're aware of. Remember, awareness doesn't have to be conscious awareness. Awareness, you don't have to have a vivid thing for to be aware of it. You can have awareness without realizing you're aware of it. That's trippy as fuck, but it's true. When you realize this, you go, wait a minute. So you're saying consciousness can be in everything. The same consciousness can be in everything. You borrowing a materialistic, dualistic description. And I don't necessarily have to be consciously aware of it. Of course. Are you consciously aware of what your guts are doing right now? Do you have any doubt that you would know immediately if I stabbed you in your gut? No. You're totally aware of the inside of your guts right now. You're just not conscious of it. But consciousness is throughout. Consciousness has no ending, no beginning. So avidya, ignorance, is how you can have awareness without conscious awareness. You're aware of the multiverse right now. You're just not conscious of the multiverse right now. Because the multiverse isn't a thing. It's a projection in the mind. But let's say you could project it. Just close your eyes and think of a multiverse. There it is. You see it. That's it. You just went astral traveling. You just saw the multiverse. Bingo. Why? Because literally everything is in it. Everything and anything. Think of a bucket of paint splashing into the sun, turning the whole sun purple. Somewhere in the multiverse, that is a reality. Anything you can imagine. This is why it's almost silly when we make up these rules. The astral is this way and you got to do it. No. That's just one way it can work. It's just one way it can look. There's no limit here. All of this stuff with codes and rules and functions and structures and all of that, that's all Maya. Consciousness is it. But consciousness can look like anything. Consciousness can manifest any way it wants or will. And it does. So, this is why, as much as I'll say Jasonius, that's why it's still valuable, that stuff. The codification. The problem is, if you take it too seriously and you stop at that level, you're not going to go further. Hopefully this doesn't come out wrong. That's where I was when I was in my early 20s. Like, in my early 20s, I was hung up on this whole, there's this world, there's that world, there's a bigger world, there's a multiverse, and there's these rules, and I had all this stuff I thought figured out. But it didn't work. It's not like that. That's just a way that it looks from here. You can use it. It's useful. It's not useless. It's just not the ultimate. The ultimate transcends even that. The ultimate is the Ein Sof. The ultimate is Brahman. The ultimate is infinity. It is consciousness. Period. And the reason why we can say it's consciousness, going back again, consciousness is not understandable. It is not comprehensible. You cannot comprehend consciousness. Consciousness cannot comprehend consciousness. There is no intellectual understanding of consciousness possible. None. The moment you have an idea about consciousness, that's a temporary manifestation of consciousness. It's not consciousness. It's a thought about consciousness. That's not consciousness. Consciousness, conscious of itself, manifests in this way. But that doesn't mean that this is what it is. It just looks this way. It appears this way unto itself. What does a mirror look like when it reflects itself back into itself? You get infinity, don't you? If you had a perfect mirror, perfect, with zero loss reflection. In other words, all mirrors have a certain percentage of loss. Very low, but they all have at least a little. It might be like 0.0 something. They all have a percentage of loss. meaning eventually it's like a little bit dimmer. So if you have it reflecting itself, that reflection will have you ever had two mirrors facing each other and they just kind of and go into infinity? Now imagine a perfect mirror with 100% reflectivity. And take that mirror and form it into a sphere so it's reflecting itself back at itself. As a metaphor, that's essentially what Brahman is. Consciousness, conscious of itself, because that's all there is. How do I know that? Look up the state of Turiya. Turya. When you reach Turiya, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. When you reach that fourth state, it's not a state, it's the fundamental essence of all states. Turiya is the foundation of being. When you hit Turiya, you get it. You don't come back from that and go, consciousness is an emanation of a brain or something. No. The entire universe goes away. And all there is consciousness, conscious of itself. There's not even an abyss. You're not even in darkness. There's just, it's like you're totally dead ass asleep, but you're blissfully aware of being asleep. There's no words to describe it sufficiently, but when you get to it, you go, oh shit, everything's an emanation of this. Everything is a manifestation of this. That's close, Raquel Kelly. You can take out the I, though. Yeah, you have, so Turiya is, you have the waking state, the dreaming state, the deep sleep state, and then Turiya. There's Sanskrit words for them. I'll have to look them up. You're doing good, Jasonium. Don't even worry about it. Because I started with martial arts too, dude. Martial arts is actually an interesting place to start. Probably because I was into Jedi growing up. When I was really, I think I was like 13, I got my ass kicked. I think I was 12. Might have been 12. And I didn't really get my ass kicked, but I had my ego popped, right? My ego bubble was popped because I fought a dude like a fraction of my size, and he put up a good fight. He hit me a few times, you know, he almost gave me cauliflower ear. He really almost did. Like my ear hasn't been as, like there's a bump in it that I didn't have, but you know, like when I was younger, it like folded over or something almost. Anyway, he was just clocking me in the ear over and over, knuckle punches over. And he was like he had to jump to hit me in the ear. Okay. But I didn't know how to fight. I was just a big kid. So I threw my weight around. I ended up kicking his ass, but only because of my size. So I felt like I lost the fight. In my heart, I felt like I lost. Even though I think I made him piss blood after that because I punched him in the kidneys a whole bunch of times. So I technically felt like I lost that fight. It blew my bubble. I lost all my confidence because most of my personality at that age was based on the fact that I was bigger than everybody and could throw my weight around because I didn't have a very good childhood. So one of the few things I was proud of wasn't so hot anymore. And I didn't take that loss very well, even though I technically didn't lose, right? It's kind of like if a cat beats a lion, if a cat loses to a lion, but it scratches the lion's eye out before it dies, you're going to say the cat won. At least I would. I'd be like, yeah, that lion shouldn't even have got hurt. That lion almost got blinded by that cat. So you'd probably give the cat, because of pound for pound, you give the cat the benefit. You'd say the cat won. So that fight I had at 12, I like saying I lost that fight. It keeps me on my toes. So for like a while, I was all screwed up. And then I saw this movie called American Ninja. Fucking hokey ass 80s ninja movie, dude. But it was, I still love that movie. That and Enter the Ninja are like my two favorite ninja movies of all time. There's others that are very good, but those two, those were the ones. So I saw that movie one night. And something in my head said, I want to be that guy. Because it looked realistic. It wasn't like a Jedi where you could never do it, right? So I went and I started looking into martial arts. I wanted to be a ninja more than anything. I was a ninja nerd for most of my teenage years. Even as a magician and all this other shit, I was like a ninja first in my mind. I loved that. I ate and slept it. I drank it. Any book, didn't matter if it was real or not. Ashita Kim, total fake ass motherfucker. I loved it. I still like his books actually, because he takes stuff from actual like Green Beret manuals and then calls it ninja shit. So it's still viable if you know how to use it. It's not very good. You have to like completely change it, but it's still an entertaining read, you know? All of it. Bujinkan, Ashita Kim. I loved it all. Everything to do with ninjas. Ninja Gaiden, the video game. Ninja Turtles. If it had the word ninja in front of it, I wanted to know about it. And then all martial arts were within, like, ninja came first, but martial arts in general was everything to me. So, like, imagine a pyramid with ninja at the top, right? So I ate, slept, drank that subject for till I was like 19 or 20. Sometime after high school is when I really started to fade on it. I got more into European martial arts, like swords and shit like that. So I liked samurai stuff, like ninja stuff. Then I got into European stuff, and then I just kind of did everything. Like I was an eclectic at that point. But so I got deep into martial arts, really, really deep into martial arts. And not just the physical. I loved the spiritual part of it. Some of my first magical knowledge at all came from learning about the Kujikiri through ninja books. That was also how I got more Zen stuff in my mind. You know, like all of that just kind of fed into itself. Martial arts is deeply spiritual, or at least it should be, or at least it can be. And so I got into the spiritual part. In fact, I got really into that, especially as I was doing the magic and stuff. Like, as I learned a little bit about magic, remember, I am not a book-learned magician. I was a fat shinobi Jasonius. Don't ever. I was a chubby, I was a husky football build guy growing up, but I loved martial arts. So even as a big dude, even though I was a little bit like Beverly Hills Ninja, I could still do tumbles and all kinds of cool shit that most people couldn't do. Couldn't do like really cool parkour, but I could do like barrel, somersaults and shitty cartwheels. And I was a total fucking dork. I like the fighting, not the gymnastics though. So anyway, back on subject. So I'm not a book learned magician at all. In fact, I've read more about magic as a subject in the last 3 years than I read in the 10 years when I was like leading a cult. Everything that I know, when you guys watch me and you're like, where does he get this shit from? I'm channeling most of it. It's just intuitive. It's just stuff that I know. It's not, I can't point to any book. In fact, one of the reasons I talk so much about philosophy is because now I've got something hard that I can point at and say, these people think like I think. These guys figured something out that I already knew. Isn't that cool? So I can hang on them and be like, that's my source, not just my intuition, because nobody wants to hear that. Yeah, sure, Thorne, you're full of shit. No, I am one of, this is going to sound like I'm one of those rare people that didn't need to be taught. I guess you'd say in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, I'd be like a sorcerer instead of a wizard. I didn't learn what I do. I just knew. I just know. And I'm perfecting that through study now. Like I've known people that have been around the block quite a while in magic. People who have been studying magic as a culture, magic as a art, magic as a science for decades and decades. And I've asked them, like, what would you say? I would have probably, if I had been among the right people, I would have been treated as a kind of prodigy, or a idiot savant maybe would be better. See, it sounds like I'm all full of myself, but it's actually not as much fun as you think, because you can't even, when you haven't learned it from an outside source, right? When you didn't get what you know from an outside source, you don't have anything that you can point to and say, that's where I got it from. So it's all about you. And so you also can't say, oh, I just figured it out, because people are like, yeah, sure. I have this problem with Eddie all the time. I'll send Eddie something. You can ask Eddie if you ever get a chance to talk to him. How often does Thorne send you something that he found in something else that he thought of himself? How often does DH Thorne comment and send you a DM and be like, motherfucker, how come nobody told me that that's what it said in the Kabbalah, you bastards? How come nobody told me that that's what it said in whatever tradition? Fuck, I thought I figured something out nobody thought of. Oh well, back to the drawing board. Happens to me all the time. I was a machine, Jasonius, just not anymore. I'm 47 now, and I haven't really practiced seriously in like 20 years. Probably more than that, 25 years. I did for a little bit. Like, I shouldn't say, like, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I got back into it for a little hot minute. And, but that was when I was 330 pounds, so I didn't do as well. But for a while, I definitely was, man. I was teaching classes, the whole works. Like, that's all I did. I often joked around and said I didn't fight people, because it wasn't really a fight when I fought people most of the time. It really wasn't. It was literally just me, like, turning someone off most of the time. I played with them. I would actually pick the fight just so I could fucking put them in a submission hold and just be like, let's not fight now, okay? Yeah, you've definitely been doing it longer than me then, Jasonia. Yeah, you might be better than me for sure about that at this point. I still say that if I get back up to speed on swordsmanship was always my favorite subject, period. Like, that was, of all the martial arts that I was into, swordsmanship was the one that I spent almost all the time. No, let's not see DH spar. I'll get my ass beat so fast now. Don't even joke. I should, though, just to show how much I don't have that big of an ego. I should just go get my ass kicked right in front of everybody, just so I can prove that it's... It's actually a huge shadow integration for me to not base myself on fighting prowess anymore. For a good 30, 40 years of my life almost, my ability to fight and defend myself was a huge part of my ego. When I say ego, I don't mean arrogance. I mean my belief that I exist as this person was revolving around combat, warriorship, being a martial artist, being good at those things. And then now I feel like I've become a wizard or a sorcerer and I don't care anymore. I'll just manipulate a warrior to fight for me now. I'll use a glamour and make them love me. Let's see my swordsmanship. Yeah, one of these days. Actually, I do put posts up on Facebook once in a while. Never really of anything with me practicing, just occasionally doing postures and stuff. But I bet you if I spent a few months getting back into it, I'd do all right. I'd actually like to go take some HEMA classes and see how I do against people who've been practicing for a while. I'll probably get my ass handed to me because I haven't practiced. Like, there was a while that I did it all the time. Literally at least once a week we would fight. We'd use like rattan poles and stuff, no armor. We just beat the hell out of each other with it. Like we were like old school. Like, we didn't use boken because they were a little too rough. So we'd use, we'd make fake, sticks. I would take like a broom handle and sometimes we'd foam them up. Sometimes we'd just duct tape them. Usually we'd at least duct tape them, because if you hit somebody with a stick and it breaks, you can have shards go everywhere and get stabbed. It would suck. If you tape it up with like good duct tape or something, at least then when it breaks, you're less likely to get shards flying everywhere. So, but we did that all the time. We actually practiced with live steel. Don't recommend it, anybody out there, unless you're an insane teenager like we were. But you learn things with live steel you don't learn with anything else. For example, what you don't know, live steel bites. It bites into the other blade and they lock into each other because the very sharp edges, they cut into each other. So if you do edge on edge, and I know some people say, you never do that. That's not true. You don't. I know the argument well because I've been on both sides of it. If a sword's coming at you, you're not going to be like, oh, I got to block it with the flat, because sometimes you actually want to catch it on the edge because that locks, you can control better. A sword wasn't something that was meant to last forever. Not a warrior's sword. A sword that your family had, like an heirloom, sure. But the one they brought to the battlefield or to defend themselves, no, the edge is like the ammo of a gun. It's meant to be used up over time. And as you sharpen it, the blade gets tired because it's no longer profiled right. It can't get as good an edge, and it wears down the hard edge and you get the soft steel behind it. So a blade wears out after a while, over years and years, or a couple of good fights. A couple of good fights will fuck up a sword. Look at the manuals, look at the historical references. Most swords didn't go through wars and wars and wars. Most swords were lucky if they survived one war or a couple of engagements. Really, they would break or they'd need to be repaired or something. So anyway, when those edges, think of it like your fingers locking together. So they cut into each other and then they bind so they don't slide as easily up and down. This is one of the reasons why you would still sharpen the lower half of the blade even though you didn't usually cut with it. Did you know that? Most swords you're supposed to sharpen just about, if not all the way to the hilt. Why? You're not going to cut with that part. That's ridiculous. Because it's meant to catch the other sword. It's actually meant to bite. So when they're swinging, you want to block it top third with your bottom third. This gives you more leverage and control, and it bites and it grips into that blade, and you can then use that to control it better. I only know that intuitively because we used to practice with sharp swords. We were very careful. We didn't go for broke. We weren't trying to kill each other, but we would do our techniques using live steel just to see. And the sparks would fly. It was just like a fucking movie. And the sword, you know what? I should go in my closet and I should get out my old ass fucking sword. Way too big and heavy, because back in the 80s and 90s, they didn't know how big and heavy swords were supposed to be. So everything was like a Conan sword. So this thing probably weighs 7 fucking pounds. At least 5 pounds, probably 7 pounds. And I used to swing the goddamn thing with one arm. And I would kick people's ass with the fucking thing. You didn't want me to like fucking hit you with the flat of it because it weighed a ton. So we'd be whoosh, bang, bang. We'd be clanging around. Oh man, that shit was fun. I should go get it. It's way in the back. I'd have to go find it. I don't think it's I think it's in the closet, way buried. I have other swords I could bring out. I've brought them out before. I have tons of swords I could bring out. But yeah, swords were like my favorite. Now I'm more into sticks and staves. I'm way more into that now. My problem with sticks and staves is not getting my hands hit. Like that's the part that always fucks me up. I'm used to having a sword either with at least the ability to bite and bind into a blade to help redirect it, or a handguard preferably that can help keep your hands safe. Sticks and staves, like they have a tendency, I don't know if you ever fight with sticks and staves, but you know, stick on stick action has a tendency to slip and slide, and if you're guaranteed, if you train with sticks and sticks, you're going to get your fingers wrapped at least once. You're going to get your knuckles wrapped at least once. So you got to be careful. You learn how to get your hands out of the way and how to position it so things fly. But the other thing is, a lot of people think that fighting with like a staff is like using a paddle or an oar, you know. all the better traditions, you end up holding it down at one end like a spear. You can shift around, you can use it like a paddle, but generally you often use it all the way at the end. I actually like Johann Weyer's style. I love that style. Or Jodo. I like Jojutsu. I can use 2 sticks. I just don't use them as much anymore. Yeah. I used to do a little Kali Eskrima. That was taught in the same school. The school I originally, back in the 90s, today it would be like a McDojo. But back then it was one of the more legit schools. It was equivalent to I guess it would be equivalent to an MMA gym that did some BJJ. But it was Shaolin Kempo karate with BJJ influence. So we did a lot of grappling, especially like after my teacher really started getting into grappling with his teacher, then they really started pushing it more. And so we did a lot of it. I'm not as good as someone who's like good at that. I can do it, but it's not, I was always more into just different. I don't want to get, I was more, not even just into striking. I was more into, I don't like going to the ground unless I absolutely have to. I prefer to stay on my feet and not go to the ground because in my experience, fighting people in real life, going to the ground is dangerous and hurts like a bitch. You're probably going to get, now it does happen, so you better know what to do when you get there. But if you can avoid it at all costs, do so. The goal is to put the other guy on the ground, not go with him. So I tried to learn ways to put people on the ground and either land on top of them or put them down and not end up with them. So there was a lot, I learned a lot of throws. I learned a lot of grappling. I learned a lot of escaping. I'm really rusty on it now, but that's what I focused on. I didn't really focus on getting you, I didn't focus on rolling around the ground with you. I wanted to get out from that, And one of the problems I had is as a big guy, there's not a lot of people that want to roll with a guy that has 100 pounds on him. So for a long time, I didn't have a good partner. So I'm so out of shape with that. I would probably lose to like a white belt who's been going to a BJJ gym for like 6 months. I'd probably lose to them. I probably would. Exactly, Jasonius. You absolutely do have to practice ground fighting, but in my opinion, unless you're going to the UFC where you're going to win a fight on the ground, your goal should be learning to not go there, and if you go there, how to get out. Not how to lay on the ground and wait for all your enemy's friends to kick your head in. If you enter the ground, nothing hits harder than the ground. Let me be clear, nothing, no strike, nothing you can do will hit as hard as you can hit them with the ground. Because anything you can do with your body, the ground can do harder. So if you can take someone down without you going with them, that's great. But I would prefer, I focus on weapons. Not going to lie, I focus on weapons because historically, most people focused on weapons. Unarmed martial arts wasn't, yes, it was an art that was practiced and mastered, and there was a lot of reputable people, and they did it for all kinds of reasons, but it wasn't the primary way people would defend themselves. Most people in history, including now, focus like around 80, I like the 80-20 rule when it comes to martial arts. I apply 80% to the thing that's important, 20% to the other stuff. 80% of my study is weapons, 20% is not. 80% of my weapons is weapons I'm likely to use. Guns, sticks, knives, clubs, machetes, stuff like that. Swords because I love them as an art, but not because I'm going to actually fight with them. 20% is unarmed. Of that unarmed, 80% for me is actually the stand-up fighting and grappling. 20% is ground. Now, some people would say reverse that and you're better off. I think for UFC, you're right. I think for street, you can get away with that, believe me. Of course I learned to disarm. Of course I did. Most of the disarms you see are bullshit, though, just so you know. So, like, knife defense, everything you see about knife defense is complete bullshit. There's only a couple of schools that teach knife defense properly. Knife defense is the hardest form of defense that there is. Yeah, I'm just, knife defense sucks. Knife defense is a bitch. Now, there's different schools of thought. There's a school of thought that says you're going to get cut and just be ready for it. Learn how to fight even when you're cut. Other people are going to say you don't have to get cut. You can avoid getting cut. My school of thought is don't try to get cut. Try to avoid it, but recognize it's probably going to happen. There's a good chance. A gun actually doesn't scare me as much as a knife does at the same range. If we're at close range, a gun actually, it's scary. I'm not saying I want to fight a gun, but I'm saying depends on the knife. It depends on the person wielding it. If I get to have everything my way, if I get to be in good shape and practiced and ready to go, gun doesn't scare me as much. Not at close range, it doesn't. I'm not saying it's not scary at all. It also depends on the gunman. If you're talking about somebody who's really practiced for CQB, okay, now I'm scared. Because somebody who really knows how to use a gun well in close quarters, that's different. Most people don't know how to use a gun in close quarters. They see the movies like, okay, that's great for most things. But close quarters gunfighting doesn't look like that. Close quarters gunfighting looks like this. Close quarters gunfighting is you keep that thing close to your body, you know, and you make sure you don't shoot through yourself. You keep it far away so they can't get at it. You use the car method. That's also viable. It chokes up a little bit. You can do it at much closer range. But most people don't know how to fight with a gun up close. So, I would usually rather fight a person with a gun, usually, than somebody who knows what they're doing with the knife, period. Guns are scary, but it depends. Like if it's a 9mm, if they don't hit your center mass, there's a good chance you're going home. Problem is 9mm, you can double, triple, quadruple tap very quickly, all in the same spot with a little bit of practice. So, yeah. I know a lot of people are like iffy on the car method. I like car. I don't use it all the time, but I do like car. I think everyone should learn a little bit of what Jasonium is saying, central axis relock. I think everybody should, if you're into guns, everyone should at least try car. At least try it. At least spend a couple of months drilling it and see if you can get it. Yes, Maiden, it depends too, though. So if it's a modern sports rifle, all plastic with a pistol grip, those actually don't do as well for one reason. They're less like a club or a pole. I would actually, if I'm going to be up close with a rifle, I'd actually prefer an old wood stock rifle, something that can take a beating. You know, I know a lot of ARs and stuff can, but there's a lot of plastic on those things, you know? Like, give me an AK. Like, okay, an AK. Now we're talking. With a good old bayonet lug, let me stick a bayonet in that fucker. Yeah, I'll close range your ass with an AK with a bayonet lug. Absolutely. Yeah, no, not plastic. Yeah, no. We don't want the plastic gun. Yeah, rifles are always good. Rifle, shotgun, any long gun's going to be superior in a gunfight over. The only thing a pistol has going for it is concealability. Even the reach isn't. If you ever take a shoulder-mounted weapon, a rifle, a long arm, versus the way you're supposed to hold a pistol for normal shooting, there's only like this much difference in reach, believe it or not. Most rifles at the shoulder, especially combat rifles like carbines and shit, they reach about the same distance from your body as a good pistol grip does. Just about the same distance. And one of the advantages is, usually when you're doing a rifle, you're not square. You're usually you're a little more canted with a rifle. You're not going straight. With a pistol, you're more inclined to be square to your target. Unless you're doing something like this, you know, that's an exception. Like if you're doing the old dueling pistols posture, that's different. But most people aren't going to shoot that way because they're just not trained to. You're better off putting a volume of fire down that's accurate than presenting a small target. You want to present the smallest target you can while simultaneously putting a high volume of accurate fire downrange. This doesn't cut it. It shrinks your silhouette, and my shoulder's fucked, so I'm not holding my arm out right. It shrinks your silhouette, but the gun's going to jump in your hand too much. And there's ways to mitigate it with good grip, but even that. Yeah, my old martial arts teacher was a Marine, and his brother was an ex-Navy SEAL. We used to fight him all the time. I used to spar him. His brother didn't know anywhere near the volume of ability, like techniques and shit. What his brother, the Navy SEAL guy, had going for him was he had more of a switch, if you know what I mean. And that's something that I tried to learn to have too. What I mean by a switch is like cold aggression. Cold aggression is not like hot aggression. And it's not like cold aggression is you just go. You don't hesitate. You attack. You defend. You don't react. You respond. You make them react. Like you keep up the pressure. You make them react. You don't hesitate. You see an opening, you go. And there's a switch that goes off. You're cold. Like you're not hot. You're not angry. You're not scared. You're just, it's like meditating, but you're also just, you just see something you want to kill and you just go. So like, you know, he used to say, "Oh, I have to be careful because I might kill you." I'm like, I doubt it, but I'm not saying you couldn't. I'm just saying I don't think you would. Yeah, no, he was fun to spar with because he wasn't trained the way we were. So one of the things is when all you do is go to a martial arts class, you are only fighting martial artists and you don't know how other people fight. One of the most important things, if you really want to be a well-rounded fighter, is to fight non-fighters. That sounds ridiculous, but it's true. I can't tell you how many people came in off the street as a white belt and beat the living daylights out of someone who was like a green belt or higher in sparring simply because they didn't react the way you expected them to. So I liked to tussle on the school field. I liked to get into fights. I used to like to fight the skinheads and shit. Because it was a way to get that practice in. It's a scary feeling when you've been training for years and years and years and someone is completely unorthodox and manages to land a hit on you. Because you go, uh-oh, I thought I knew what to do with that. I guess I didn't. Because it's not, at some point fighting isn't intellectual. Just like magic, it's not intellectual. It starts intellectual. It starts by memorizing techniques and learning what to do. Then at some point, it's all intuitive. It's all spontaneous. The more you think, the worse you're going to do. You feel your way through a fight. Fighting is a feeling art. It's not a thing. Yes, you do think in the training. Yes, you do think in the tactics and the preparation. But in the moment, it's a feeling art. You are feeling your way through it, and you're trying to make them respond to you, not the other way. You want them to react. You don't want to be reacting. Yeah, getting hit in the face isn't fun. You're exactly right, Maiden Liberty. Exactly. Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. That plan goes out the window right away. Speaking from experience. I like to go for a really good first hit. I like to get you in your solar plexus breadbasket right off the bat. The fight ending shots. I like to start with that. I like to open with something that puts the person out or puts them on a back foot, and then I just control it from there. But that means I usually have to react or strike first. And you can't do that legally most of the time. So what I like to do when I was getting into that stuff, I would always bait the fucker into throwing something that I could easily deal with. And then I would deal with that. It's sort of like, yes, they may have moved first, but really I was the one who initiated it. That's how you win. It's just like in sword fighting or fencing. If you can get them to open their guard to strike at you, and you're ready for that strike, you're ready for that attack, you can easily change that around and make it an advantage. Being the first one to swing is usually not the best thing. It only ends up being the best thing is if you can catch them with it. Oh, I can tell you what I'm going to do. I know what you're saying, person. But one of the things, I mean, I have to practice, but one of the things I was really good at was not telegraphing. I learned how to throw punches without moving my body until I had to. You know, you lead with the punch, not the body. There's a way to do it that it just happens and they don't see it coming. Again, I talk a lot now. If you guys saw me fight now, you'd probably laugh your ass off. I probably would be pathetic. I'm like that old football coach that was like a football legend in high school. That sucks now. That's kind of me now. Like, I know how to tell you what to do, but I don't think I could do it the way I used to. I have to cheat now. I have to use a gun now. Yeah, exactly. Let the other guy do the work for you. Why are you doing all the work? Maiden must have. You'd probably win, Maiden. Don't. Why would you? That's an easy win. Don't. No, I would have to, like, I don't know, if I was given like 6 months to train with somebody to get me in good shape, you know, just so I didn't look like an asshole doing it, I'd probably, you know, it'd probably be fun. But I'm not really into that anymore. Like that's what I was saying before. Like, that's old Thorne. That's Thorne circa 2005 or something. Like, that's not me anymore. That guy's gone. I still enjoy those things, but it's not my thing. Yeah, that's why I don't do preemptive striking very much, Jasonium. I will bait you into doing the stupid thing. That's how I used to like to. I don't know what, you know. I also usually have a lot of extra weight and power over the other person. It's not a lot of people as big as me. If you see pictures of me, like the pictures from the East Coast meetup, I think the only person that was even remotely close to me in size was Eddie. And I think he was like an inch taller than me, but not as heavy. So I'm not a small, I'm 6'1", 240 pounds. Mostly still a lot of muscle under that 240 pounds. It's not 240 pounds of fat. It's probably like 20 pounds, 30 pounds of fat. So if I lost all the freaking fat, I'd probably look like a small bodybuilder. Like, I'd probably look like a decent size, like, yeah, I'm not small and weak at all. So I can usually throw my weight around still. That's why it's like, even if I'm not that skilled anymore, I still feel pretty confident that against the average person, especially without training, I'm probably just going to eat them alive. But if you know what you're doing, you make me nervous now because I'm not as sharp as I used to. So like I say, I would rather just err on the side of I'd probably get my ass kicked and then be happily surprised when I end up winning. Because most of the time, I think, even if nothing else, just from health, I'm 47. I don't have it. I'd have to do a lot of training again. I'd have to do a lot of training again because I don't know if I could. I certainly couldn't go 15 rounds in a ring. That's for sure. I'd probably make it one round and fall over dead. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I learned to develop a switch. If you know what I mean by a switch, there's a switch that goes off. Most people curl up in an ass ball and get their ass kicked or run away, or they, like it's the fight or flight switch. But there's a dark side switch, if that makes sense. There's a switch that you can switch on that it's almost like sadistic, You don't even care if you get hurt. You don't care what happens to you. Yes, you care. I'm not saying you just take it all, but I'm saying you're not sitting there thinking about, oh, I'm hurt. You're just like, the threat's not down yet. I'm still going until you black out or you just can't move anymore. You just keep going. And, that is hard to learn because that's like it's not a technique. That's why doing a lot of weight training helps because you get used to pain. Why sparring a lot, live sparring, not soft sparring with pads. I mean, literally bumping, hitting each other. You got to learn to take the hits because you're going to get hit. Yeah, bloodlust, it's more of a, that does happen. But what I mean by this, it's like, I go from being a compassionate being that doesn't want to fight to all I know is you're a threat and I need to make you go away. And you can tell because I almost enter a trance. My eyes, if you see me tuck my chin and look at your belly button, and I just sort of like it's all peripheral vision, just go away. just go away. Now's not the time. Yeah, now is not the time to fuck around because you will find out. Or one of us will find out, probably you. Because if that happens, the switch has gone off. I'm in fight mode. Once I just start looking at your belly button area or whatever your lower center of mass is that I can see. I don't even have to see you. It's not about, I don't have to focus on anything. It's literally just peripheral vision at some point. Again, this is back when I was good. I talk a good game now. If any one of you picked a fight with me now, you'd probably kick my ass. I really want to be clear. You probably would kick my ass now. But back in the heyday, I loved it. Loved it. My favorite thing in the world was taking someone who was like a bully and bending their ribs in and really making them feel it. Not breaking them. Just, I like to feel ribs going. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes, I like the way ribs feel when they depress, but not, there's a feeling, there's a feeling. I did it to Jamie. Remember? Were you there when I did that to Jamie? Yeah. He wouldn't give the, he's like, I felt my ribs go in. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's called. Soft focus. Thank you, Jasonia. If you see me go into soft focus, that same soft focus is what you use in meditation, by the way. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. That soft focus, take it a little further, you're now in a meditative state. It's the same. I think that's where maybe I got good at it from. Maybe that's why I was good at both. Because they kind of feed each other very well. Don't worry, Atreyu, we're leaving the fighting conversation soon. I was a bully's bully. I like to bully bullies. That was always my favorite thing. Because it's sort of like, as a psi vampire, nothing tastes better than somebody who's used to bullying other people. To me, that is the most precious of flavor there is making a bully cry. Just because, you know why? Interestingly enough, with few exceptions, they're actually the weakest inside. So they're really, like, once you get them, they cry. Cry like little babies. That little beta dude that you think ain't a badass, he'll stand up to you. That A-type motherfucker who thinks he's in charge, they fall like a bitch when you get on it. Once they'll cry. I'm telling you, they will cry when you get them in the right position. That beta fucker won't. That beta fucker will fight you to the death. That alpha bitch will cry. Me, I'm a Sigma. I'll cry while I'm kicking your ass. It's totally... I have such an adrenaline dump when I fight. I usually cry after. Even when it's a sparring match, I've cried after sparring matches. I'm not kidding. I have such an adrenaline dump when I'm done that I tend to cry because I'm just so... Oof. But it's like a joy. It's not a crying like I'm sad or I'm hurt. It's a crying like, I'm totally manic, like I'm fucking deranged. It's ridiculous. Why is Thorne crying when he's kicking that person's ass? What happened? Did he get his ass? No, he just, like, okay, you know, like Waterboy when he... All right, I'm just being funny. I'm not that bad. Like I said, it's been so long, I don't even know what I'd do anymore. I'd probably just get my ass kicked. I probably would. I'd probably be like, I shall fight him. And the next thing I know, I'm like, what happened? Why am I in the hospital? My wife would be like, honey, you thought you were 18 again. That's what happened. Your balls got big and it didn't work. Defense mechanism, poop. Good one, Jockster. Good one. Sure, fuck it. I'm not above shitting into my hand and rubbing it in your face if it means I win the fight. I don't give a fuck. That's the other thing. I never said I was chill. I said I don't give a fuck. It's totally different. I don't give a fuck. I'm not here to look good. I'm here to kill you. All right. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to call it. It's getting a little bit late for me. I've been actually going to bed early because I've been working in the morning. So, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We didn't really talk about magic much, but we did have a good time. It was a fun conversation. And I promise one day I'll bring a sword out just for you, Maiden. You know, I think you're in the Discord, right, Maiden? Check in the Discord. I think some pictures of my swords are there somewhere in the weapons channel. I should put some more pictures up, but all my favorite swords are in my ritual room right now. So, which is actually where the bird sleeps. So, so I don't want to go in there and wake up the bird because that would be very sad for her. I can show you this though. I can show you this. This is my favorite kukri. This fucker's badass. It's light too. I usually get the bigger regular kukris. This one I got from KHI Nepal. They hand make everything. Some of them old fashioned. Some of them make them the old school way. Yeah, this is the one you got me, honey. This is my favorite knife. I don't think you'd call it a knife. It's just a kukri. This is my favorite kukri that I own. I love this fucking thing. I love it. It's just oomph. What else do I got here? Let's see. Do I have it here? Yes, I do. Buried. My favorite tomahawk. Right here. This I love. My absolute favorite tomahawk. This fucker. I've had this one for, I guess a year and a half now. I used it at Christmas time last year. Fucking badass. I love this one. I had to mod it though because it came with a different haft. So I swapped halves with it. And put the grip on it and all that stuff. So it's its own thing now. Yeah, the kukri, I can actually put a link to the kukri if you guys want. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. These guys, if you're going to buy a kukri, I have recommended them before and I will recommend them again and again and again. I've gotten 2 kukris from them. So I just put it up, Maiden. Go there. Those are the absolute best kukris that I've found. Most of them are too thick and heavy and ridiculous. These guys make them the right way. They're just right. They're not. So there's tourist kukris. Those are the ones that are like as thick as your thumb. And some people think they're supposed to be like that. No, they're not. It's just no. That website, listen to me carefully. They ship everywhere.
Their shipping is great.
Their shipping is good too. They're in Nepal. They ship around the world, to my knowledge. I don't know if maybe your country might have a restriction, but they ship everywhere, to my knowledge. You check their website just to be sure. Their prices are ridiculously affordable for what you're getting. They're ridiculously affordable. And they're handmade. They look perfect. The guys who make them almost perfectly. I'm telling you. I don't rave about many makers. I rave about these guys. I don't know what it is. When it comes to kukris and even probably bowies, whatever you want to say it, they make those really well too. But here's another thing. For an extra like $25, they'll bless it for you with an actual fucking Nepalese priest will actually go through. They will make sacrifices to your blade, giving it a soul. So now I can do that myself, so I don't need that. But as an added service, it's pretty cool. And everyone they send you, they actually tell you who made it. Each maker has a mark that they inscribe on the blade, and it's also given to you as a card so that you can give them special thanks. And I always do. I always send them an email, and if it's good or not. And I tell them, like, this is good, this is not. They're freaking badass. They do not make a bad product. I don't know if they've ever made one that people didn't think was a good one. The first one I got, I don't know. You can find them all over. I mean, they got so many different designs. Some of them are really pretty. Some are more for function. Some are more for show. But they're all good. Let me just see on their... Where's their shipping?
That one actually came a lot quicker than what they said.
Yeah, like they can take weeks. Sometimes they come right away. Like if they have it ready made, I think they have like some outlets around the world, so sometimes they come quicker. There we go, shipping. Shipping. Yep, KHHI ships to all countries all over the world. We make special documents under the universally recognized GSP code. So, yep, you can pretty much order these from just about anywhere. So, Maiden, if you're not in the United States, so long as your country doesn't restrict it, you can get it. So, I literally cannot recommend a maker more for this style. I actually have, Jasonius, I have the Cold Steel Chinese War Sword. It's overly built. I don't like Cold Steel swords or blades on average. They do make occasional good stuff, but they tend to overbuild. They tend to be clunky. They tend to feel like hammers, you know what I mean? Like when they should feel like a light thing. Chinese War Swords, yes, they could be big and overburdensome, but traditionally not really. If you really look into it, they were not like that one that they sell from Cold Steel. That's an exception. That's an exceptionally big and heavy. They were big and heavy. They were meant to chop your head off in one go. But I prefer the lighter Chinese War Swords personally. I don't.
Another really big one I got you.
Yeah, that's the really, really big one you got me. Yeah. Nepal's awesome. I hope if the world ever stops taking a shit on itself, and if I ever get the money, I think Nepal's a place I want to visit. You know, like India and Nepal, I've always wanted to go there and just stoke it all up. Hang around with some dude with ashes on his head for a couple months, you know? Yeah, so that's actually my favorite company for that. For swords, I just look around and find stuff that's not bad. Like, what is it? My current favorite sword, who made that? Is that a Tinker? I think it's a Tinker. Pretty sure it's a Tinker sword, long sword. I think it's one of the Tinkers. By Hanwei, yeah. Let me see. So I like the Tinker ones because they're kind of affordable and simple enough. That's a pretty practical rapier, though. I almost want it. That's an art I never took up, was rapier. Or saber, for that matter. Although I could probably... My friend who did a lot of saber said with a little bit of tweaking I could do rapier pretty well because I like to fight similar. But... trying to find out for sure. I'm pretty sure it's a Tinker Pierce longsword. Or two-handed sword, or bastard sword, or one of them. Yeah, I don't see it on here. Kind of doing dead air while I'm looking. Yep. And yes, I've used Cult of Athena for years, but I don't really like Cult of Athena. I've had a lot of bad experiences with them, actually. Which is weird. Most people only have good experiences with them. I had bought a sword from them. Said full battle ready. Fucking thing sucked. Fucking sucked. Oh, anyway. Yeah. Delton, I know the name. I don't know them very well. Let me look them up just to see. I never bought anything from them anyway. You know, the most expensive sword I have actually comes from Angel Sword, if you know who they are. They used to be hot shit. Now people mostly make fun of them. If you were around the Renaissance fairs of the 90s and early 2000s, Angel Sword was pretty much the sword maker. And they're not cheap because the guy has a lot of proprietary shit going on. That one I could get, unless my wife wants to get it for me. I could grab that sword. That one's... you want to get the wedding sword? It's up on the shelf. In the bedroom. It's behind the mirror there. You don't have to. If you don't mind. I'll make that the only one I show tonight because the other ones are all put away. Okay, Maiden, you're about to see a sword. It's been a little while. I still love the look of this bad boy. This is the one I got married in. Can you see it? So when I bought it, this cost $2,500. $2,500 sword. Today, he does a trade-in deal, if I went to trade it in, probably close to 4 or 5 grand because they only increase in value. That's one of the reasons why I like them. But yep. So T10 tool steel, cryo quenched, special unique design, no two like it. It's actually one of the things that's interesting is when he emerged on the scene, he was making swords lighter than everybody else. But now, compared to other sword makers, his are on the heavy side, interestingly enough. So this actually isn't my favorite sword, believe it or not. For years it was, but it's not anymore. But it does cut the mustard. It is a good sword. What I love the most, which you can't see from the angle, let's see if I can do it. Look at the handguard. You guys see that handguard? I love that handguard. The fucking angel bat wing, demon wing look. Oh, I love it. Is it coming through? Hopefully it's coming through good. Let me pop this open so I can see what you guys see. Yeah, look at that guard. Look at that bad boy. Yep. That pommel will crack your neck too. Look at that. I love it. Good sword. I miss this boy. Girl. It's a girl. I named it Lady Sorrow Star when I got it. What else did I call it? Zippy? I called it Zippy too. It's a little zippy. It's got some speed to it. And yes, those little divots were not done by me. They were an aesthetic choice. And when I asked him about it, I'm like, doesn't that like weaken it? He's like, well, it's got an interesting spine configuration, which you don't see on any other swords really. It's like a unique design. So he's like, it won't break. It's got a solid rigid spine. It's got fullers. So what'll happen is those are actually meant to catch like other blades, I guess. I don't know. To my experience, if you try cutting with this, those are going to get caught in shit though. So not as good. It's more of an aesthetic choice than anything. Like I said, I got married in it, so it's my wedding sword. So anyway, guys, what's the balance like with this? It's right on the little angel symbol, just about. I don't want to touch the blades, so I don't want to drop it either. Let's see. Come on, baby. Right about, give or take, it's like right, not quite the heart of that symbol. So, right about like a third of the way from the end of the symbol. So, about 2 inches from the hand, give or take. Very, 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 very good point control for what it is. But it's got some things that don't actually make it the best sword. It's aesthetically, it's fucking bonkers. And it feels pretty good in your hand too. But as an actual fighting sword, I have better ones. Like I have ones I'd fight with first, not this one. So, all right, guys, that's it for real though. I really should go to bed. So you guys can see what I'm into. And it better be a well-forged sword. Jasonia's for $2,500 when I got it almost 20 years ago. And his swords only go up in value, so this is probably close to $4,000 now if I were to go sell it back. So, all right, guys, so that's it. I will be talking to you guys next week, hopefully. Haven't had any luck getting any of my guests on. A lot of people they say oh yeah, I want to come on, let's go. And then something comes up and they can't, or then something happens to me. So, we'll see. I should get somebody on again soon. I like having somebody else to riff on once in a while. So, yeah. All right, guys, until next time, good night, good luck, mind the shadows, and all that good stuff. Where's the button? Where's the button?